Peace and love. This is Brother Faheem, and you are now tuned in to the League of Logic podcast. You know the vibes. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Brother Faheem, your gracious host. Lead with Logic, the podcast. Man, it has been a minute since I've been up in it, but I'm always trying to win it. Party people, a lot going on out there in the world. It's a whole lot going on in the world. Never short on content. Seems like I'm always short on time. Man, what has been going on? I'm always reading news. I'm always in different spaces. I'm always trying to get a better and deeper understanding of the world around me. And as I do that, I try to share it with you guys. So something happened to me the other day and I thought it was interesting. So I figured I would create a space to discuss it and kind of dive deeper into it. So I'm in a Twitter space and I'm listening because you can get anything on Twitter from crypto advice. You can get anything from uh, pornography, philosophy, religion, whatever. And obviously, the latest event. So I'm in a Twitter space and I'm listening, and they're discussing the Palestinian and Israel conflict. Now, people have their perspectives on it, and, you know, they're vast and they vary depending on the culture that you come from, depending on the region of the world that you might be from. Your perspective on it is going to differ and it'll be different. Hey, that's what makes the world go round, right? It takes all different types. So I understand. But I noticed that, and maybe it was just the people that were running the room. They were people who had migrated to the United States from other countries. I noticed that whenever people came up to the stage and tried to express why they really did not support either the Palestinian or the Israeli side, they their reaction was very interesting, and to say the least. They reacted with pure vitriol, and it was almost like an entitlement in a sense where, hey, why wouldn't you African Americans jump on board with us? Because what's going on in Palestine, how they are suffering, how Israel is bombing them, how women and children, you know, you should jump behind this. Let me say this at the outstart. I do not support the murdering, the maiming, the bombing of any innocent people, right? Women, man, woman, or child. I don't support that. We don't support that. Suffering, innocent people suffering anywhere affects all people everywhere. Let me say that first and foremost. Now, with that being said, I also have another feeling. When they were when the moderators or the people who control the room, as they were talking and as I was listening, like I said, I was thinking to myself, oh wow, these people are really, really upset that people have a differing of perspective, right? They're trying to clearly explain to these people, like, hey, this is a it's total chaos. It's a catastrophe. We understand, but I'm not gonna say I'm gonna jump out the window for this fight, for this battle. And man, it got to be a little bit ugly. And it made me say, wow, I think that's something that should be addressed. Now, as I did a little research, I saw where people like Tariq Nasheed, Dr. Umar, they had spoke out on this because people are asking them. And then one of my brothers sent me a clip of Mark Lamont Hill from a few years ago when he was saying that we should support Palestine from the river to the sea, I think is what he said, something like that. And he also brought up a lot of freedom fighters from the 60s and 70s, right? He brought up Malcolm X, he brought up Angela Davis, he brought up the Black Panthers, and how these people all supported Palestine. And they did, which I thought was super commendable, super admirable. Yeah, I get it at that point in time. But what I did not see was where neither Palestine nor Israel supported the Afro American struggle, the plight of the black man, the original man in America. And so it made me say, you know what? Maybe I need to say a little something about that, and we'll bring a little bit of light, right? Bring a little bit of light to the forefront about that. So, John Henrik Clark, in a lecture, it's a lecture on YouTube where he says, "We have no friends." He was talking about Africans in the diaspora, and he was specifically talking about how all religions that were externally based, that were brought in, that were imported in, for lack of better terms, they were for the betterment or the advancement of African people anywhere. So when you think about religion, when you think about something like Christianity or Islam or Judaism, he deduced that they had been based on African spiritual systems, recycled and given back to African people with the intention of enslaving. And so for that, he said, listen, you have no friends. If you want a friend, look in the mirror. Now, what was his proof of that? Because he had seen how we had Africans, not just Afro Americans, but Africans all over the place had supported other than their own in fights for liberation. But who runs to our aid? Who comes to our aid? Right? You know, I'll say at the end. I guess I'll wait till the end to let you guys know my perspective. But in the meantime, in between time, let's hear. I mentioned Brother Tariq Nasheed. Let's see what he has to say. We'll listen to Brother Tariq first. All right, all right, all right. Let's see what our brother has to say.
All right, let's get what's your name? Matro? Matro, what's up, brother?
Yes, sir, bro. Yeah, just had a question. Why do you have such an isolationist policy when it comes to the Israeli-Palestine conflict?
I have a what policy?
Like you're basically you're just like I'm neither on either side. I'm just like I'm minding my own business.
Right. I'm just giving the same energy. Same energy. You know, treat others as they treat you. I'm treating them the same way they treat us.
Don't you think it's the enemy of the enemy is my friend policy is better?
How about the golden rule? I'm gonna treat everybody like they treat us. Shit going on over here with us. Ain't nobody saying nothing. Ain't nobody helping us. Ain't nobody doing nothing. So I'm gonna let them do what they do. They let us do what we do. We'll let them do what they do. Why is it our obligation to hop up and put a cape on?
Well, it's not so much that you have to put a cape on. It's like you're bringing more allies to your side, because there's one side that's clearly, being a culture vulture to your, you know, uh, culture, and
Which side is that?
I think it's very clear which side that is.
I don't know which one you're talking about
The,
because
the, the side, the side that
both.
has the most music producers in the industry.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, when I look at both sides, it's looking kind of funny. And I talked about this the other day because when we have police officers who are trained to whoop down on us, they get trained over there in Israel. When we go in certain stores, some of these store owners who call the cops on us are Palestinian. The cops, the people who called the police on George Floyd were Palestinian. There was a Palestinian serial killer running around Flint, stabbing black folks. A lot of these little liquor stores that's in these neighborhoods exploiting us and calling the cops and beating us down. Some of these are Palestinians. So
Yeah, but
we we
what does that
don't.
have to do with the like the movie itself? Like I don't see
Uh,
any Palestinians getting involved in the hip hop industry except
uh,
DJ Khaled.
yeah, he's in the industry, but hell, the music industry is run by a whole bunch of different people. But that's neither here nor there. All of them are anti us. So why should we put on the cape for any of them?
No, I'm not saying to put on the cape. I'm saying to kind of like, you know,
Look, like
gain more
what?
allies in the fight,
Ally,
especially when it comes
what
to your.
allies? I mean, they've had a million years to be allies. They if they haven't been allies to us now, they're not going to start. We've been putting the cape on and fighting for everybody. And when it comes to us, everybody's twiddling their thumbs. When is the allyship going to kick in?
Well, I mean, you can gain new allies. It just
Uh,
doesn't have to be, you
Dude,
know.
we've been gaining. We've been trying to gain allies for the last, what, 60 years. We've been fighting for immigrants to come over here. We've been stomping for everybody, helping everybody get rights over here with the DACA programs. That's the Dreamer program named after our black icons. When are the allyships going to come in? When is it going to benefit us?
No, it's not about necessarily benefiting you at the moment. It's more of acquiring new allies in your fight, especially with
To
this
be,
new movie coming out.
okay, if we got allies in the fight, what's the purpose of having allies if we're not going to benefit from the allies?
Who's to say you wouldn't benefit from them in the future?
Have we benefited from them in the past?
You're talking about you're talking about I guess you're talking about Africans, but that has nothing to do with Palestinians.
Any, I'm talking about any so-called allies, any non-FBA allies. How have we benefited from anybody, any of them, any allies? How have we benefited from them?
Sometimes addition by subtraction is a good thing too. I mean,
That's called babbling. So you can't even name anything. That proves my point, sir. We don't have any allies. Ain't nobody allying with us. When it comes to us getting some help, with 2 + 2 = 4, you're just saying anything. But then we're supposed to go jump in front of the damn smoke bombs for everybody else. No, thank you.
That was our dear brother Tariq Nasheed. He said we supposed to go jump in front of the smoke bombs. I like what he said. He said reciprocation. You know, you get what you give, right? It's just a universal law. You get what you give. But that was Dr. Umar. I mean, excuse me, that was Tariq Nasheed. Let's go to Dr. Umar. Let's see what Dr. Umar said. I thought his take was super duper informed as well. Yes. So we are now listening. We just heard Brother Tariq Nasheed and what he had to say on support Afro American, Black American, the original man in America, the Asiatic Black man in America's support for the Palestinian, group, or for the Palestinian versus Israeli, you know, the saga that's going on over there. This is what our brother Dr. Umar had to say. Listen close.
Peace and Pan Africanism, peace and Pan Africanism. First of all y'all who got a problem with me because I said I'm focused on black people's problems, well, guess what? You could stay mad. I'm focused on black people's problems. Last time I checked, I was the creator of Unapologetically African. Last time I checked, I'm the founder of Unapologetically Black. That's my concept. That's my movement that y'all done ran with, talking about you unapologetically African, but you afraid to say that you worried about your people's problems. Ain't nobody helping us. You got 27 million Africans in the Congo, displaced, environmental issues, hunger, poor health care. You got 1 million Ethiopians who've been murdered. You got Sudanese who have died. Ain't nobody said nothing about the Sudanese. Ain't nobody said nothing about the Ethiopians. Ain't nobody said nothing about the Congolese. But you want me to cry tears for the Arabs? Listen, I hope the Arabs in the West Bank in Gaza, I hope they get all they get. I hope they are protected. I hope nobody dies. I hope those babies' lives are safe. I hope the women are cared for. I hope that there's no bloodshed, no violence. But if you think I'm going to take time out of struggling for African people. If you think I'm going to stop my agenda to liberate my people, to go cry for people who don't cry for me, if you think I'm going to stop what I'm doing and pay attention to what's going on over there when y'all don't even pay attention to what's going on in Africa, y'all don't pay attention to what's going on in Ethiopia, y'all don't pay attention to what's going on in the Congo. The greatest humanitarian crisis in the world is in the Congo, not the West Bank. I said the greatest humanitarian crisis in the world is in the Congo, not the West Bank, not the Gaza Strip, not Israel, but in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So don't tell me I got to cry for whites and browns. I'm crying for black people, and I don't care who don't like it. I don't care who don't like it. You got police killing black people in America every day. We got police killing black people in America every day. We got a hunger. We got gentrification. We got miseducation. We got mass incarceration. And you want me to go crying for white and brown people? I'm not going to do it. I hope nobody dies. I wish them well. But my focus, my priority is on Africa and African people, those at home and those abroad, those in America, those in Africa, those in South America, those in Central America, Canada, the Caribbean, Asia, Europe, Australia, South Pacific, the mother continent. I'm focusing on my people. This is Pan-Africanism or perish. You understand me? This is unify or die. They don't care about us. You got black people in Palestine facing racism. You better go do your research. What about our African brothers and sisters in Palestine who are suffering racism at the hands of the Palestinian Arabs? Y'all ain't said nothing about that. Oh, no. Oh, no, you come to the wrong place for that. And see what we fail to realize as African people. What we fail to realize as African people is when you start paying attention to other people's struggle, you give the whole world permission to ignore your problems. I don't see Arabs taking attention off their problems for black people. I don't see Latinos taking attention off their problems for black people. I don't see Asians taking attention off their problems for black people. I don't see East Indians taking attention off their people off for blacks. You think I'm gonna take attention off my people's problems for blacks? What about the Ethiopian crisis? Y'all not crying for that. What about the Congolese crisis? Y'all not crying for that. What about the Sudanese crisis? Y'all not crying for that. What about all the black people sold into slavery by the Arab nations? Has Palestine spoke out against that? Has Palestine spoke out against all the Africans in Africa, East Africa, being sold into slavery by the Arabs? I ain't heard no Palestinian say nothing about the Arab slave trade against African people. Get out of my face with that. You come to the wrong place. You come to the wrong place.
Standing still is going.
Yeah, I wanted to get both of those young men, both of those gentlemen's narrative on it because they both said pretty much the same thing, but it was powerful. Brother Tariq had a call on the line who was trying to say, hey, listen, why are you guys so isolationist? Why aren't y'all jumping behind the Palestine? And he let them know, like, listen, we're not jumping in front of the bullet when you guys don't jump in front of it for us, right? And the same with Dr. Umar. He was saying, look, it's suffering over there. And he said something that we're going to touch on later that I have. But he talked about how it was suffering in Palestine with the darker Palestinians, right? The Afro-Palestinians. I remember Andre 3000 wore a shirt one time and it said, all darker people, all darker people in each nation are discriminated against, something to that effect. But he was really trying to highlight the issue that when you are highly melanated or when you are melanated, you will be treated a certain type of way. And it's not favorable. So, yeah, I like what Dr. Umar, I like what both of them said. Obviously, I wouldn't have played them if I didn't, but Umar got a little bit more expansive and a little bit more comprehensive. And again, this is not to condone any oppression that's happening anywhere in the world. This is merely to get you to think critically as to, why people support what they support, and also, not shaming or guilt tripping people into, not allowing yourself to be guilt tripped into any struggle that's going on out there, right? So yeah. So I also wanted to share a one more video. Well, not one more. Just a little something for you all who may not be abreast of what's going on in Palestine. So I'll show y'all a little video that makes it a little bit simple. Now this conflict, this thing's been going on over in Palestine for years and years and years and years. It may not ever, the way it's looking, it's probably not going to stop anytime soon. But just give you all a brief overview of what's happening. Something's going on with this thing. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. This is basically a video just kind of emphasizing what's been going on over there, highlighting it. It's 2 minutes, so sometimes the AI acts crazy, but no.
What is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and what does Hamas want? Here's what you need to know. Don't worry, we're going to make it simple. Israel was officially established as a country in 1948 to provide a safe haven for Jewish people after 6 million Jews were murdered by the Nazis in the Holocaust. But while there had long been Jewish people in the area, at the time there was an Arab majority, as well as minorities including Christians, and together these people were called Palestinians, who didn't want to give up their land to establish a Jewish state. Britain, which had ruled the area as part of its empire, proposed creating another country for Palestinians that would exist alongside Israel. This would be called Palestine. But neighbouring Arab countries rejected the plan. They said Palestine should cover the whole area, including Israel, so they went to war. Israel not only won that war, it ended up controlling more land than was originally planned. Fast forward to today, Palestinians mainly live in 2 areas that were captured by Israel in 1967. These are the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The Israeli government controls access to and movement within these areas, especially Gaza, which some human rights organizations say is like an open prison. Right now, Gaza and the area around the Strip is the center of the fighting. Since local elections in 2006, Hamas has controlled Gaza, but it's considered a terrorist organization by countries including the UK and the US. Hamas does not recognize Israel's right to exist and believes that Palestine should cover the whole area from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. Both Hamas and Israel have been accused of war crimes for their attacks on civilians on both sides of the conflict. Until now, Israel has been well defended with its powerful military, its spying organizations, and its Iron Dome, which usually shoots down rockets from Gaza before they can hit Israeli cities. And that's partly why this latest attack from Hamas is so shocking. It's bigger than anything that's come before, and it looks like no one on the Israeli side even saw it coming. Hamas has killed hundreds of civilians and soldiers and taken dozens more hostage. Israel has responded by killing hundreds of people in Gaza.
That's a little backstory on the Palestinian Israel uh, conflict. It's been going on for years and years, and different nations have been involved. Of course, the United States and UK are backing Israel. Again, this live is not to condemn or condone anything. It's not to condemn any one party, and it's not to condone the actions of a party that have caused great harm to innocent people. That's not what we support. However, we also need to let it be known that we will not be shamed into supporting anybody under any circumstances. That's what this is about. Now, that was Hamas and Palestine. So here is I'm gonna share this clip. This is about the Black and Asian community, right? There have been tensions for years. What I remember is Latasha Harlan being killed in LA, and the woman who killed her got probation. And the judge, and I quoted, she said, "I know a criminal when I see one, and this woman's not a criminal." So there have always been tensions uh, between the Black and Asian community. Now, I mentioned the Asian community because a few years ago, specifically about 3 years ago, when COVID, the novel coronavirus hit, and then the reports indicated that it was from Wuhan, China. Donald Trump got on stage, who was our president then, and he said, "It's a Chinese disease, right? It's from China." A lot of people were offended by that. Now, some people will blame those statements on Donald Trump. They will say he ignited it by saying that, by labeling the disease Chinese, where Asian people or Chinese people are in inner city communities where it can be dangerous. People are influenced, right? They're influenced by the president. So this may cause them to try to harm um, Chinese people. Well, yeah, certain statements can be provocative, absolutely. And, we have to be careful what we say. But I think people don't put in the perspective that, hey, listen, there have been attention, there have been issues that have existed between those two communities that will cause something like that to come to a head, that will cause the violence. But it was just funny how when the Asian hate bill passed right before that, a lot of more prominent Asian celebrities and people were saying, hey, you need to come out. Black people, y'all need to be stepping up for Asian people. And they forgot that these same people who occupy our communities, our neighborhoods, oftentimes they don't treat us as if we are welcome in their stores. They don't treat us as if we are deserving customers. And sometimes they don't even treat us like we're human beings. So I wanted to share a little something about that I pulled up. So you guys enjoy. Yeah, so check out this this report.
In a world of economic uncertainty, where record high gas prices and soaring food costs threaten.
Professor Pyong Gap Min from Queens College, who wrote a paper on Korean Black relationships in New York City, says historically culture has been an issue between the two groups. He says that some Korean immigrants have not been aware of the brutal history of slavery in the lives of Blacks in America.
Korean immigrants did not understand Black history. From their point of view, if you work hard here, you can make it.
He writes from the 1970s to the early 90s, the most severe conflicts among Asian immigrant groups has occurred between Blacks and Korean business owners who set up shop in the Black community. A very public conflict began to simmer in 1991 in LA when a Korean shop owner killed a 15-year-old Black girl and got probation. The following year, riots broke out and Korean businesses were targeted and burned, following the acquittal of white police officers charged with beating Rodney King. But Professor Angie Chung from UAlbany says that the conflict between blacks and Asians was deeper than culture. She says it was orchestrated through systemic racism. She says Asians were declared an example of a model minority, and their success was used as a symbol to proclaim racism did not exist in the U.S.
If we look at the time period when that stereotype actually first came out, it came out in kind of a rebuttal to Black Americans' continued protests against racism after the Civil Rights Movement. And so implicitly, it was stating that, no, there is no racism and there's something wrong with your community.
Along with culture and racism, Beverly Yin Thompson, a sociology professor at Siena College, says wealth inequality is also at the heart of the tension.
People are really struggling, and then it's just the classic case of, groups being pitted against each other, when really we should be looking up at, these billionaires sucking up all the money and not funding the infrastructure in our society.
Meantime, Joyce Williams says that she went back to the restaurant the next day to try and quash the disagreement. But in the end, she says, court is the only answer.
I wanted to show that because that was instrumental in what happens in Black and Asian communities. It demonstrated Latasha Harlan and how the Korean lady killed her. It also demonstrated how, the Asians, when they came, that the professor said they didn't really understand the plight of Black Americans, and also the culture. It causes a little bit of tension, right? So that tension is something that existed. That's all I wanted to show you guys. It existed, and it's been there for a second. Now I can remember, this is something else that I share. By the way, like and subscribe, please like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Apple Podcast, I'm on Google Plus, all of these spaces, all of these platforms. But if you go to YouTube, that's where you'll find a good bit of my videos, mostly all of my videos. But nonetheless, I can remember again when this Asian hate thing, when there was this public call for people to speak up, specifically Afro-Americans, Black Americans in America, to speak up for Asians and stop the violence against them. I think people have forgotten that there have been a string of acts of violence and brutality against Black Americans in Asian stores, right? So you had the man in Kentucky who suspected a young Black man who was 13 of stealing. He followed him to the Kroger's, held a gun to his head and held him hostage, right? Just recently, I think I want to say it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. They two men chased a man down and they killed him. They shot him. Two Asian men chased a Black man down and killed him. He was unarmed. And I'm getting ready to show you. This was the first thing that I saw. It was two Black women who had went into a store. They went to a nail salon and they did not agree with the service that they had gotten. And something happened and it just went downhill from there. It was another instance where an Asian guy had punched the sister in her face, and the activists and the protesters and the men in the community went to shut the business down, but the store owner dropped the prices. He did this was a hair salon. This was like a beauty supply, right? So they had a lot of weave, and the owner cut the prices by like 80% on all the weaves. And man, it was like a line of sisters. It was like a line of Black women there. And it had gotten contentious because the guys who came to help, who came to really, say, hey, you can't do that to our sister. He was met with contention, one of them, because he was trying to tell the sisters that were in line, man, you don't need to shop there. They don't respect us. They just punched a sister like yourself on the pavement, on the sidewalk right here. So, but what I'm getting ready to share, however, is that instance that I was speaking about where the workers locked the sisters in and beat them. Check it out. Oh, hold on.
Most an African American woman, the owner.
Let's start that right on.
A West Charlotte store owner is under fire after a cell phone video shows him kicking and choking almost an African-American woman. The owner here is Asian, and this happened at the Misha Beauty Thursday. Well, today, community leaders and customers gathered outside the store calling for a boycott. WBTV's Christian Flores joins us now live outside where all this happened. So, Christian, that video pretty hard to watch. I know you talked to the store owner. What did he have to tell you?
Well, Sharon, the owner did confirm that that was indeed him in the video, and he also says that he's sorry to the woman he put in a chokehold, but he also says that he did that to keep her in his store until police arrived. He told us that she stole from him, but protesters say whatever the case, he should not have gone to this extreme.
Check my bag. I'm telling you, I don't have it.
What started as an owner's concern over a possible shoplifter quickly escalated into a physical altercation. Moments later,
Are you serious?
you see the owner of Misha Beauty, Sung Ho Lim, kick the woman, then take her to the ground and put her in a chokehold.
Disturbed, disgusting.
This video has been circulating on social media. And on Sunday, community leaders and customers held a protest calling for a boycott of the store.
He took it upon himself to treat her in the ways that no woman should be treated. In fact, no person should be treated.
I will never, ever come in this store again.
Lim talked with protesters, apologizing to them.
That's a whole my fault.
But protesters say this apology may not be enough. Charlotte Mecklenburg's NAACP chapter, as well as national civil rights activist John C. Barnett, showed up to the protest, saying the possible racial implications in this confrontation cannot be ignored.
It reminds me of any historical attack on Black people.
Whatever the case may be, we do know that, he can't be keeping someone in a chokehold.
But Lim says this had nothing to do with race. He tells WBTV the camera phone footage doesn't show her stealing from his store. He filed a police report telling officers she stole eyelashes. However, no charges have been filed. One man who works in a store near Misha Beauty says this is not how you handle a shoplifter.
When I think they may be stealing, I mean, as far as stores, most of them have cameras in them.
Lim says he should not have taken things this far.
I wasn't crazy, no matter what's the reason, but I feel very sorry to her.
But for protesters,
this woman could have gotten killed.
They don't think he understands how serious his actions were.
When he was choking her, he was almost choking her to death.
And no one has been charged in this case. We're told the woman actually left the store before police arrived. Now, Lim tells us he plans on apologizing to the woman face-to-face sometime tomorrow. Reporting live in West Charlotte, Christian Flores, WBTV on yours.
Yeah. So it's important that we understand where we are and what's going on, right? Because a lot of time we have political pundits and figures who are campaigning, who are spewing left or right wing rhetoric. So it's very important that we lead with logic and do our own research, right? Like y'all heard, if you didn't, you go back, you hear Dr. Umar say, do your research, right? Do your research. Again, so that was one of the incidents that I remember. That was one of the incidents that I remember happening. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that's crazy. And like the woman said, he almost choked that sister, right? Now, I'm showing all this to say this. You have to keep it in mind, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. If you expect the people to support you, to back you, you have to really reflect on what your treatment has been of them, right? We understand reciprocation rules the nation, right? Quid pro quo, you do something for me, I'll do something for you. It doesn't have to be a contentious relationship with any community, with two communities, right? We can coexist, we can cohabitat peacefully and peaceably, and be supportive, right? But you cannot expect one group to support another group, especially when you yourself have brutalized or terrorized that group, that specific group. You cannot then yourself be terrorized and expect the said group that you brutalized to come to your aid. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And I'm just showing you guys different examples of when that's happened. Now, this is the Lead with Logic show. So you're going to always get something of reference, some kind of logic. You're going to always get literature, right? For those of you who watch, you know that. Um, this is an article that I found, and I thought it was interesting. The name of this article is "The Long and Complicated History of Black Solidarity with Palestinians and Jews." Now, this was super duper interesting. In another video that I saw with Dr. Umar, right? He said, you know, a mural that doesn't equate support. That doesn't mean support. That's a symbolic gesture. It's nothing substantial. And he's right. Just because somebody put a mural up, that doesn't necessarily mean that they support you in your plight or in your fight. So, but nonetheless, how black support for Zionism morphed into support for Palestine. It's basically a little history about what has gone on. You know, it deals with Black Lives Matter, it deals with a bunch of those civil rights leaders, uh, different groups, and how they were supportive. Now, I'm gonna skip through all that. It's between Fabiola Cineas and Sam Klug. I hope I'm saying them names right. But what I want y'all to read is at the bottom. What I want to read to y'all is at the bottom. So he says, Fabiola Cineas says, with all of the history you've recounted, this way, with all of the history you've recounted, why do you think people are trying to tug black people in various directions when it comes to the latest eruption of violence? And Sam Klug said this: there's a long history in the United States of other groups seeking to mobilize the example of the black freedom struggle in support of whatever their cause might be. The totemic power of the mid-century civil rights movement has formed the basis of what a lot of Americans understandings of what fights against oppressions are and should be in all times and places. So that fight that they noticed and observed and witnessed through the 60s with the civil rights movement, that has become the prototype for how movements against governments, against authority, against power are to be conducted. That's what that's saying. One of the unfortunate consequences of that has been that white Americans and Americans fighting for all sorts of different causes then believe that they can lay claim to that struggle and believe that if black people in the present are not supporting their positions or what they view as their righteous struggle against some form of oppression or another, that black people in the present are betraying the legacy of that totemic mid-century civil rights struggle. Now, pause. We see that with a whole bunch of movements, right? We see that with the LGBTQ community, that movement. We see it with the feminist movement. We see it with any group, any disenfranchised group. There will always be a reference point or a going back to the civil rights movement, and there will always be an expectation. So it seems that black people, since we struggle with civil rights, we should understand when other groups are struggling. And we do. We absolutely do. We're absolutely sympathetic and empathetic to those groups, but that doesn't mean we're gonna support you, and it don't mean that we're gonna equate whatever your struggle is to our struggle and our fight. Right? When you are measuring something, right? And that's not to say there's a oppression Olympics, but when you're measuring something, if you take two substances, two liquids in a cup, to say that they're equal, they one might be 10 ounces, another might be 5 ounces. In order for them to say, okay, these are equal, they both have to have the same content. They both have to have the same. It can't be 5 and 10 because then they're unequal and it's off balance. What I'm trying to say is a lot of times with a lot of these plights, a lot of these struggles from different ethnic groups, it's not the same as the black struggle. And there's confusion when people try to make them the same or align them, like he's saying, you know, when you try to make your righteous struggle our struggle. No, it doesn't work like that. A lot of this has to do, he goes on to say, Sam Klug goes on to say, a lot of this has to do with the way historical memory of the mid 20th century civil rights movement has been mobilized. This is connected to anti-blackness in the sense that it presumes that black people in the present day should or must act in a certain way. And you see that in how anger is directed at black Americans, maybe more so than other Americans for the positions they are or are not taking related to any number of issues And today the issue is what's going on in Israel and Palestine. So yeah, I thought that was super duper critical and paramount to this conversation. You know, people getting mad because they saw how the civil rights movement, and people feel as though their their struggle is equivalent to the black struggle. It's not. A lot of them aren't. The LGBTQ struggle, it's not the same as the black struggle. The feminist struggle is not the same. That's not to say that they don't have struggles, because they do. And are they worthy of their support? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just not the same as the black struggle, as we just read, right? That's not Brother Faheem. That is the author of that. That is by Fabiola Sines, and this was October 17th, right? So this was recently. Now the last thing that I want to show you guys is this. It's an article from the Middle East Monitor, right? Something that Dr. Umar said. He said, go do your research, because there are Afro-Palestinians that are being treated bad. That's what he said. If you watch. So in this article, you see where it's labeled Afro-Palestinians face double the harassment and double the racism. Nesserine Salim is an Afro-Palestinian from Egypt who has been mocked due to her skin color and hair for most of her young life. The 25-year-old is one of at least 400 Afro-Palestinians from Nigeria, Egypt, Chad, Senegal, and Sudan who live within the walls of occupied Jerusalem's old city, adjacent to Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. I hope I'm saying that right. The hardest part was when I started hating everything about myself because I was being pointed at and attacked verbally by both Palestinians and Jews everywhere I went, she told me. We faced double the harassment and double the racism for being Palestinian and for being black. Israeli soldiers are always cursing the black Palestinians and interrogating them whenever they pass by. This is how most people in the community grow up. Working as a photojournalist on 18 October last year, Salem set out to film the violent raids carried out by Israeli forces at the Damascus Gate into the old city that serves as a popular gathering spot for many Palestinians. The day sticks out in her memory not for the raid itself, nor for the tear gas and sound bomb attacks that followed, but for what happened to her afterwards. She was alone covering events as they unfolded when she was approached by several Israeli soldiers at a military checkpoint. They assaulted her following a brief interrogation. Wow. During her arrest, she goes on to say, during her arrest, the soldiers shouted racist abuse, including slave, and kicked and beat her until she was numb with fright and pain. Still visibly traumatized, she explained how they kicked her. Many other soldiers were standing over me, and I was shocked. I froze because I didn't know what to do. During the investigation, they accused me of kicking the soldiers, even though that didn't happen. Then they wanted to know who I was working for and accused me again of sending photos and playing political games. Wow. So, growing up as a member of a racial minority, feelings of isolation and exclusion are all too common. Such feelings are shared by other Black Palestinians. The current generation of Afro-Palestinians is different, she believes, because of the internet. We can browse and connect with others who look like us and appreciate our unique features. The internet helped me to love and accept myself and others who are very different from the majority. And I am able to share everything I learned with my friends and peers who are not familiar with the Black experience and history in Palestine. Yeah, man. That is crazy. That is super crazy. But, you know, I said I was gonna save my perspective for the end. It's a movie out there y'all should go check out. It's called American Gangster. Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe, I think that's his name. My main man Common is in it. And in that movie, it's a scene where he goes to see Dominic Katana. He's a mafia guy, right? And Frank is so big that the mob guy has to get the dope from him. And so they go over to his house. You've seen it, you know the scene. He takes Ava, his wife, and they go back into his study. And Dominic, he's telling Frank, he says, hey Frank, I know I don't like monopolies, you've cornered the market with the dope. And you need to make it fair. Frank was like, it's fair for me, And he said, well, you're not thinking about the dairy farmers. They're not up on, things like this. Dairy farmers, they need a better price. Are you thinking about the dairy farmers, Frank? And what Frank Lucas said is just how I feel. He said, dairy farmers, huh? I'm thinking about the dairy farmers about as much as they ever thought about me. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, again, we empathize and sympathize as human beings with any innocent people, any suffering people. We don't condone that. We don't condone it. We don't think that's okay. And we don't laugh or take humor in suffering on either side, the Palestinian side or the Israeli side. But here's what you will not do. You will not shame us into supporting your movement. That's any group of people. That's Palestinian, that's Israeli, that's African, that's Asian, that's Hispanic, that's whoever you are. If you do not support the Black struggle in America, then don't expect support from us. Period. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Hey, when we have issues, when we have children who cannot read, when we have economic issues, when we have police brutality, when we have Black women who are killed, any atrocity we have to figure it out by ourselves. We do. Now, that's not to say that in the civil rights movement that there weren't other ethnic groups, right? There were other ethnic groups. There were Jewish people who helped, right? There were other white people who helped. There were other ethnic groups who helped. But like I said, when you do the research on the Black and Palestinian solidarity, you'll see a lot of leaders from yesteryear, like Malcolm, like the Panthers, right? You'll see these people and how they were vocal and how they spoke up for the group, for the Palestinian, for Palestine, right? Because that is, hey, I'm not in it. You know what I mean? Like I say, as far as who's right or who's wrong, that's an age-old thing that they're gonna have to figure out. But what we do not see is we don't see Palestinian leaders stepping up. We didn't see a whole bunch of Palestinian leaders saying, hey, we will support Black Americans, right? Now you had, but he wasn't Palestinian. You had Muammar Gaddafi give the minister a good amount of money, right, for the mosque in Chicago, which was beautiful, which was absolutely beautiful. But now, how many leaders are speaking up in the UN saying, hey, listen, what Malcolm was trying to do when he died, what Marcus Garvey was trying to do when he died, bring, this body up on charges or bring the United States up on charges because of their treatment of Black Americans. I don't see any leaders who speak on that. Now, I'm not sure how true this is. I couldn't confirm or deny because I don't know. But I know in Tariq Nasheed's commentary, what he said was in Flint, there was a Palestinian murderer running around, and that's a one-off, right? Because anybody can be crazy and go to hacking and stabbing people, but we want to have solidarity with any group that wants to have genuine and sincere solidarity with us. It's just that simple. Who will respect our plight, who will align with our objectives and agenda, and move from that space. But it should never be a situation where people are trying to shame Black people into getting on board with their fight. And that's anywhere in the world, because we suffer at an extreme rate. We are strangled up under capitalism, right? We are strangled up under racism. We are strangled up under oppression. And we should, and those of you who expect us to jump out the window for you, you should keep that in your mind. I remember Rihanna said at one of those award ceremonies, they gave her an award. This had to have been maybe, I'm not even sure now, 6-7 years ago. And she said, for all my people who are from other countries who are living over here watching, if you're friends with somebody Black, pull up to the barbecue, get active. What she was saying was, listen, get involved, get engaged, learn something. Because like you saw, if you go back and watch this live, when you watch the Asian guy, he says something that's pretty typical for a lot of people who migrate here. They don't have any type of clue about the plight of Black Americans, about the original man in America. So you should educate yourself so that you understand where you are and what the climate is. And you also understand how to communicate with us. If you want that, again, if you want that support, we'll give it to you, but it don't come cheap though. And you can't be no fair weather friend. You have to be consistent. You have to stick around, right? You have to show and prove that you are honestly a supporter and not just a weekend warrior, right? Not just a tampon. You come and use us when you need us, and then you out, right? So, listen, man, I appreciate y'all for coming in. My man L Boogie, my guy Jaden, y'all follow them. Jaden has a channel on YouTube. So does L Boogie. He's part of a group called We the People, which is super dope. I checked them out. They do sports analysis. 3 super intelligent brothers. Jaden does. He's like a socialite. He drifts. Good brothers. Good brothers. Man, I want y'all to like and subscribe. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel so we can see it grow. If you click on the channel as well, you'll also be able to go pick up some gear. I have my League of Logic gear that I'm always rocking. Man, we got hoodies, we got t-shirts, all those good things, man. So you go in there and get yourself some gear so that you can get down with the movement. But yeah, man, that is all that I have. Man, thank you for rocking with me. As I always say when I end these things, may we meet again in the light of understanding. Hey, peace and love, y'all. Get with me.